Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're embarking on a journey to the very edge of history, where myth and reality blur into one. We're diving deep beneath the waves, off the coast of Japan, to a place that challenges everything we think we know about our ancient past. Have you ever wondered if the legends our ancestors told were more than just stories? What if they were fragmented memories? Echoes of a world lost to time. The great Professor Masaki Kimura once said, "Every civilization begins with myth. Every myth begins with memory." This powerful idea is our compass today as we explore one of the most underwater structures ever discovered. The Yonaguni Monument, discovered in 1986 by a local diver. This colossal stone structure rests 80 feet below the surface. It's a breathtaking sight, a massive, monolithic pyramid stretching the length of a football field. For decades, the debate has raged. Is it a natural formation, a bizarre trick of geology, or is it something more? Something man-made. Professor Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyu, has spent over 20 years diving and mapping this site. His conclusion is bold and unwavering. This is a man-made monument, a remnant of a lost civilization that vanished beneath the waves at the end of the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago. Think about that for a moment. That's more than twice as old as the pyramids of Giza, predating what we traditionally consider the dawn of civilization. Let's look at the evidence. The monument is composed of massive, tiered platforms of solid rock. You can see distinct, flat terraces, sharp, right-angled corners, and what appear to be carved channels and staircases. Skeptics argue that sandstone naturally fractures in straight lines. And that's true. But can nature alone create such a complex, organized, and almost architectural arrangement? Look closely at this formation here. We call it the turtle. It's a separate, sculpted rock that bears an uncanny resemblance to a giant sea turtle. Is this just a random shape? A geological Rorschach test? Or was it intentionally carved by people who held the turtle sacred? A creature deeply symbolic in many ancient Asian cultures. And then there's the main structure itself, often called the monument. Notice the tiered levels, rising one on top of the other. Doesn't it remind you of something? Look at the roofs of ancient Japanese castles and temples. See the layered design, known as Gusuku architecture, is a hallmark of the local Ryukyuan culture. Could the design of those later surface structures be an echo, a memory of an even older, submerged prototype? One of the most compelling features is what appears to be a grand staircase. You can see the steps, uniform and rhythmic, climbing the side of the monument. They seem to lead from a lower plaza up to a high, flat terrace, almost like an altar. It's hard to imagine how natural erosion could carve such a perfect, functional-looking stairway. It feels intentional, designed for procession, for ceremony, and the ceremony might have been tied to the sun. At the winter solstice, the sun's first light is said to align perfectly with a specific part of the monument. This alignment with celestial events is a key feature of sacred sites all over the world, from Stonehenge to the temples of the Maya. It suggests a deep understanding of astronomy and a desire to connect the earthly realm with the cosmos. It's the kind of sophisticated knowledge we associate with advanced cultures, not primitive hunters. So, if this was built by people, who were they? The timeline places them in the Jomon period of Japanese prehistory. We often think of the Jomon people as simple foragers, but recent discoveries showed they were far more advanced. They created some of the world's first pottery, lived in settled communities, and had a rich spiritual life. Could they have possessed the skill and social organization to build on this monumental scale? This is where we return to myth. The legends of the Ryukyu Islands, where Yonaguni is located, are filled with stories of gods from across the sea and a magical underwater kingdom. The most famous is the tale of Hiroshima Taro, a fisherman who visits the magnificent palace of the dragon god Rigage. Beneath the waves, the story describes a palace of breathtaking beauty, a place outside of normal time. When those myths were first told, were the storytellers just spinning fantasies, or were they passing down a distant, ancestral memory? A memory of a real kingdom, a real sacred place that was once on dry land. Before the seas rose dramatically at the end of the Ice Age, Imagine a thriving coastal city, its great stone temple, the center of its world. Then, as the ice caps melted, the water began to rise. Slowly at first, then relentlessly, until the entire city was submerged. Its memory preserved only in legend. Could the Yonaguni Monument be the physical proof of that lost world? The real-life Dragon Palace. Is it a temple built, not just near the sea, but for the sea gods themselves? When you look at the structure, you can almost see it. The main terrace as a grand stage for rituals. The stairways as paths for priests ascending to meet the dawn. The whole complex, a bridge between the world of humans and the divine power of the ocean. Of course, the debate is far from over. Mainstream archaeology is cautious and requires more definitive proof, like tools or clear inscriptions, which haven't been found. Yet. The harsh underwater environment makes preservation difficult, but the visual evidence is tantalizing. It speaks to us, not in the clear language of artifacts, but in the suggestive language of form, alignment, and myth. The Yonaguni Monument asks us to open our minds. It suggests that our history might be deeper, more complex, more mysterious than we ever imagined. It reminds us that the line between a geological marvel and a lost city is sometimes as thin as a current, and that the greatest discoveries may still be waiting for us hidden in plain sight just beneath the surface. What do you think? Is this a fluke of nature, or the legacy of a lost Ice Age civilization? Beneath the restless, shimmering surface of the East China Sea, off the far southwestern coast of Japan, lies a world few have ever witnessed. It's a place shrouded in a deep blue silence, guarded only by the endless, rhythmic pulse of the ocean. Here, near the island of Yonaguni, something vast and ancient sleeps carved from stone, hidden for millennia, waiting for humanity to remember its name. Divers have come to call it the Yonaguni Monument, a colossal structure of terraces, steps, and towering walls that rises from the seafloor like the ghost of a forgotten city. For some, it is merely the work of nature, a spectacular geological accident, sculpted by time and current. But for others, it is something far, far greater. A temple, a citadel, a relic of a lost civilization swallowed by the sea thousands of years ago. When the first divers stumbled upon it in the spring of 1986, they could hardly believe their eyes. Before them were massive rectangular platforms, perfectly formed right-angled steps, and sharp, defined edges, all resting 25 meters beneath the surface, as if they had been designed and executed by intelligent hands. Could it be possible? Could an entire city have once stood here, basking in the sun, before the ocean rose to claim it? This discovery sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology and history. If the Yonaguni Monument was indeed man-made, it would force us to rewrite the history of civilization in Asia and perhaps the entire world. According to our current understanding of science and history, no known culture in Japan 10,000 years ago possessed the technology or social organization to build something so large, so precise, and so perfectly aligned, and yet the stones themselves seem to tell a different story. The ocean whispers over their ancient edges, slowly smoothing their corners with the patient hand of time. Schools of fish glide silently through corridors that bear an uncanny resemblance to ancient passageways. Shafts of sunlight pierce through the water, illuminating vast flat platforms that look eerily like public plazas, grand stairways, and even roads. Divers who have explored this underwater marvel describe the sensation as stepping into a dream or, perhaps, a deeply buried memory. Down there, among the sand and stone, the very concept of time seems to dissolve. There is no present, no past, only the endless, deep hum of the sea and the strange, unshakable feeling that you are not alone. You are in the presence of something profound. Let's delve deeper into the two opposing theories that have defined the debate over this incredible site. On one side, we have the geologists, led by figures like Dr. Robert Schoch, a professor from Boston University. This camp argues that the monument's features, while striking, can be explained by natural geological processes. They point to the specific type of sandstone in the area, which tends to break along straight plains. They suggest that powerful ocean currents, seismic activity, and natural erosion over millennia could have carved the rock into these seemingly artificial shapes. They argue that the steps are simply natural bedding planes, and the walls are vertical fractures in the rock that have been widened by water. From their perspective, our human tendency to see patterns in familiar shapes, a phenomenon known as pareidolias, what makes us interpret these natural formations as a man-made city. It's an easy trap to fall into, seeing a face in the clouds or a city in the stones. But then, you turn to the other side. This is where the story takes a more romantic, and perhaps more incredible turn. This theory is championed by Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus, who has dedicated years of his life to diving and mapping the site. After more than 100 dives, Kimura is convinced that the monument is artificial. He points to features that he believes defy natural explanation. He has identified what he describes as a quarried stone road, distinct drainage channels, and even a large, sculpted formation that looks remarkably like a giant turtle. He's also noted smaller carvings and markings on the stones that seem deliberate to be accidental. Perhaps most compelling are the structure's alignments. Kimura argues that some of the main features are aligned with astronomical points, like the winter solstice, a common practice in ancient monumental architecture. If Kimura is right, the implications are staggering. It would mean that a highly advanced culture, which he calls the Jomanera supercivilization, existed in this part of the world during the last ice age, a time when sea levels were much lower. This civilization would have built this monumental complex on dry land. Then, as the ice caps melted and the seas rose, their city was lost to the waves, becoming a legend whispered only by the ocean itself. This would predate the Great Pyramids of Egypt and the ziggurats of Mesopotamia by thousands of years. Think about that for a moment. A culture with sophisticated engineering and astronomical knowledge, flourishing at a time when mainstream history tells us humans were primarily nomadic hunters. It sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, but the evidence, resting silently on the seafloor, demands our consideration. Exploring the site feels like walking through an echo. The main structure, known as the monument, is immense, roughly the size of 2 football fields. Its highest point features a wide, flat terrace, often called the main stage. Leading up to it are what appear to be enormous stone steps, each one several feet high. You can almost picture ancient rituals being performed here, with a priest-king addressing a crowd gathered below. Not far from this is a feature nicknamed the Loop Road, a path that encircles a large part of the main structure. Is it a natural channel carved by currents, or was it a ceremonial procession route for the city SAN? Divers have also pointed out 2 massive pillars, standing side by side, now known as the twin megaliths. They appear to be deliberately placed, like a gateway into a sacred area. And then there's the most intriguing feature of all, the turtle. This is a large, uniquely shaped stone formation that, from certain angles, bears an uncanny resemblance to a giant sea turtle. In many ancient Asian cultures, the turtle is a powerful symbol of longevity, wisdom, and the cosmos. Is it possible that the builders carved this effigy as a guardian for their city, a permanent tribute to a sacred creature? Or is it, again, just a trick of the light and shadow on an unusually shaped rock? The mystery only deepens when we consider the local folklore. For generations, the people of Yonaguni have passed down stories of a great city lost beneath the waves. A tale of a golden city that was sunk by a great tsunami. They speak of Narai Kanai, a mythical place across the sea from which all life originates, and to which the spirits of the dead return. Could the Yonaguni monument be the physical remnant of this mythical place? Could these legends be a form of collective memory? A story passed down through countless generations, preserving the truth of a real, catastrophic event that submerged a real city. So, what are we to believe? Is the Yonaguni monument a breathtaking masterpiece of nature, a geological wonder that coincidentally mimics the work of human hands? Or is it a silent, stone testament to a chapter of human history that has been completely lost to us? A civilization so ancient that it has faded into myth. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Some researchers have proposed a terrace-forming theory, suggesting that the site was originally a natural formation that was then modified and enhanced by human hands. Ancient people may have found this spectacular natural structure and decided to adapt it for their own purposes, carving steps, creating platforms, and adding ceremonial elements. This would explain both the massive scale of the site and the seemingly deliberate, man-made details. Ultimately, the ocean holds its secrets close. The currents continue their slow, patient work of erosion, and the silent blue water obscures our view, until more extensive research is funded and conducted, perhaps using advanced underwater imaging technology or careful archaeological excavation. The Yonaguni Monument will remain an enigma. It is a place where science and myth collide, where the line between what is natural and what is artificial becomes beautifully, mysteriously blurred. It challenges our assumptions about the past and forces us to ask, what else might be out there, hidden in the depths, waiting to be rediscovered? What other stories has the ocean kept for us? The stones of Yonaguni do not speak, but they invite us to listen to their silence, to wonder, and to imagine a world far older and more mysterious than we ever thought possible. Beneath the turquoise waters, off the coast of Japan's southernmost island, Yonaguni lies a mystery that challenges everything we thought we knew about our own history. It's a place where stone and sea guard a secret thousands of years old. Is it a lost city? A relic of a civilization swallowed by the ocean? Or is it simply a bizarre, yet beautiful, trick of nature? Join us as we journey into the silent, blue world where this debate rages on. It was discovered in 1986 by a local diver, Kiichiro Erate, who was looking for a new spot to observe hammerhead sharks. What he found instead was something far more astonishing. Sprawling across the seabed was a massive, terrace structure of stone, with impossibly straight lines, precise right angles, and features that seemed man-made. Imagine this: a structure rising nearly 25 meters from the ocean floor. That's taller than an 8-story building. Its main platform stretches almost 150 meters, the length of a football field and a half. As you swim along its face, you can't help but notice the details. There are terraces that feel like they were designed for ancient rituals, and a grand staircase that descends into the darker depths as if it were a pathway to another world. The lines are just too straight, the angles too perfect to be casually dismissed as random erosion. Geologists have pointed out that sandstone, which this monument is made of, tends to fracture along straight planes. They argue that the powerful ocean currents in this region could have carved these shapes over millennia. It's a plausible scientific explanation. But then, there's the face. Divers have captured stunning photographs of what appears to be a colossal sculpted head. You can make out the haunting shapes of eyes, a nose, and a mouth, all half-veiled by centuries of coral growth. To those who believe this is a man-made structure, it's the undeniable proof of silent guardian. Perhaps the face of a forgotten god from a civilization older than any we know. To the skeptics, it's a classic case of pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see familiar patterns, like faces, in random objects. It's a trick of light and shadow on stone. But even the most hardened skeptics have to admit, the Yonaguni Monument doesn't quite look like something nature would create on its own. The mystery deepens when we listen to the whispers of local legend. For generations, the people of Yonaguni and the surrounding Okinawan islands have passed down stories of a land that once existed just beyond the horizon. They call it Mu, or Raijay, the mythical dragon palace. In these ancient tales, it was a magnificent kingdom of wisdom and light, ruled by sea gods who resided in an underwater palace. Some stories say this great land sank beneath the waves in a cataclysmic flood. Others claim it was intentionally hidden from the eyes of humanity to protect its sacred secrets. Could the monument be a physical remnant of that lost kingdom? A memory of a time before recorded history even began. Now, let's look at the science. Geologists have estimated that this entire area would have been above sea level around 10,000 years ago, near the end of the last ice age. Back then, vast glaciers were melting, causing sea levels to rise dramatically all over the world. If that timing is correct, then whatever civilization might have built this structure was drowned long before the first stone of the Egyptian pyramids was ever laid. This possibility opens up a question far more profound than just the origins of the Yonaguni Monument. It forces us to ask, was there a forgotten chapter in human history? A highly advanced, global civilization that was almost completely erased by rising waters, leaving only scattered, submerged fragments of their world beneath the waves. Could legends of Atlantis, Mu, and other lost lands be more than just myths? Let's take a moment, as our camera glides through this blue, silent world. Try to imagine the monument, not as a ruin, but as it might have been. Picture a sprawling complex of temples and grand platforms, rising proudly from the ancient shoreline. Imagine priests in ceremonial robes walking along sun-drenched terraces, their chants carried on the sea breeze. The air is thick with the smell of the ocean, mixed with the sacred scent of burning incense and the cool aroma of polished stone. It's a thriving center of culture, knowledge, and spirituality. And then, a deep trembling from the earth. A monstrous wall of water, a tsunami, racing towards the coast with unstoppable force. The sea, once a source of life, becomes a force of destruction, swallowing the temples, the people, the entire civilization. And then, silence. A silence that has lasted for 10,000 years. Is this what happened here? Are we looking at the tomb of a lost world? Some researchers, like Professor Masaki Kimura from the University of the Ryukyu, have dedicated their careers to proving the monument is artificial. He has identified what he believes are roads, castles, and even a stadium, mapping out an entire ancient city. He points to smaller, detached sculptures found nearby that resembled animals, like a giant turtle, as further proof of human craftsmanship. On the other side of the debate, geologists like Robert Schoch argue that it's a natural formation. He emphasizes the natural tendencies of sandstone to fracture in this way and believes that all the seemingly artificial features can be explained through known geological processes. He sees a magnificent natural wonder, not a lost city. So, what are we left with? A set of tantalizing questions with no easy answers. A place that straddles the line between science and myth, between what we know and what we can only imagine. The Yonaguni Monument remains one of the world's greatest archaeological puzzles, whether it was carved by human hands or by the patient, powerful forces of nature. One thing is certain: to float through its silent stone corridors is a humbling and awe-inspiring experience. It reminds us of the vastness of time and the incredible secrets our own planet still holds. It challenges us to keep exploring, to keep questioning, and to never stop searching for the truth. What do you think? Is this a natural wonder or the last vestige of a prehistoric civilization? Let us know your theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective on this incredible underwater mystery. Have you ever heard whispers of a lost city swallowed by the sea? A place that haunts the edges of our maps and our memories. Today, we're diving deeper than you can imagine off the coast of a remote Japanese island, into a mystery that could rewrite human history. This is the story of the Yonaguni Monument. Our journey begins near Yonaguni, the westernmost inhabited island of Japan. For years, local divers navigated these waters, content with the vibrant coral reefs and abundant marine life. But in 1986, a diver searching for new hammerhead shark watching spots stumbled upon something extraordinary, something that didn't belong. There, beneath the waves, was what looked like a massive, man-made structure. A pyramid, a city, a lost world. A lost world? Imagine this. You descend into the blue, the world above fading away. The ocean whispers over colossal stone edges, smoothing their corners with the slow, patient hand of time. Fish glide silently through corridors that feel like ancient passageways. Then, you see it. Shafts of sunlight pierce the water, illuminating vast, flat platforms that look eerily like plazas, grand stairways, and even roads. Divers who have been there describe the sensation as stepping into a dream or, perhaps, a deeply buried memory. Down there, among the sand and the silent stone, time itself seems to dissolve. There is no present, no past only, the endless, deep hum of the sea, and the strange, unshakable feeling that you are not alone. The scale of this place is staggering. In some areas, the monument rises almost 25 meters, or 82 feet, from the seabed. That's taller than an 8-story building. Its main platform, a massive slab of rock, stretches nearly 150 meters, or 500 feet long. As you swim along its sides, you can't help but notice the details. The lines are just too straight. The right angles, too precise to be easily dismissed as random erosion or natural geological formations. You see terraces that seem deliberately designed for some unknown purpose. Maybe rituals or gatherings. A large staircase descends into the darkness, like a pathway to another world, its steps impossibly uniform. Geologists have studied the site. Of course, the official scientific consensus is that the monument is a natural phenomenon. They argue that the region's sandstone naturally fractures in straight lines when subjected to tectonic stress and erosion from strong ocean currents. They point to similar, though less dramatic, formations in the area and say that what we see as a city is simply our human tendency to find patterns and faces in random shape. Phenomenon known as pareidolia. But can nature really create something this complex, this orderly? The debate rages on, because for every scientific explanation, there's a feature that defies it, and then there's the face. Divers have photographed what appears to be a massive sculpted head, its eyes, mouth, and a distinct nose half buried in coral and stone. To believers, it's irrefutable proof of intelligent design, the face of a forgotten god or a long-lost king, perhaps from a civilization far older than any we know. To skeptics, it's a coincidence, a trick of light and shadow on weathered rock. But even the most hardened skeptics have to admit, the Yonaguni monument does not look like the work of nature alone. It feels different. It feels intentional. The mystery deepens when we listen to the local legends. For generations, the people of Yonaguni and the surrounding Okinawan islands have passed down stories of a land that once existed beyond the horizon. They call it Muor, more poetically Raige, the Dragon Palace. In these ancient tales, it was a magnificent kingdom of wisdom and light, ruled by benevolent gods who lived beneath the sea. Some stories say this paradise sank in a great cataclysmic flood. Others claim it was intentionally hidden from the eyes of humankind to protect its sacred secrets. Could the monument be a physical remnant of that lost kingdom? A tangible memory of a time before our recorded history even began? This is where science and legend collide in the most fascinating way. Geologists estimate that the monument lies in an area that would have been above sea level around 10,000 years ago, near the end of the last ice age. During this period, the world was a very different place. Massive glaciers locked up huge amounts of water, and sea levels were much lower. As the planet warmed and the glaciers melted, the oceans rose dramatically, flooding coastal lands all over the globe. If the 10,000-year-old dating is accurate, it means that whatever once stood on that spot was drowned long before the Great Pyramids of Egypt were even a blueprint in someone's mind. It would predate the civilizations of Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley by thousands of years. This single possibility opens up a question far larger and more profound than the Yonaguni monument itself. Was there a forgotten chapter in the story of humanity? A highly advanced civilization, erased by rising waters, leaving only scattered, submerged fragments of their world beneath the waves. Think about flood myths from around the world, from Noah's Ark to the story of Atlantis. Almost every ancient culture has a tale of a great deluge that wiped a slate of civilization clean. For centuries, we've treated these as myths, as allegorical stories. But what if they aren't just stories? What if they are the fragmented, distorted memories of a real, global event? The memory of a world lost to the sea. The man who discovered the site, Kihashiro Aratake, was so convinced of its artificial nature that he enlisted the help of Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Reef. After dozens of dives and years of research, Professor Kimura became the monument's most vocal academic champion. He has meticulously mapped the site, identifying what he believes are castles, temples, a triumphal arch, and even a stadium, all connected by roads and water channels. He points to features like two massive, turtle-shaped carvings and what he calls tool marks, indentations in the stone that suggest it was quarried and worked by human hands. Kimura's theory is bold, that this is the remnant of a lost civilization, one that possessed a level of technology we never thought possible for that time period. But his views are not widely accepted by the mainstream scientific community. The opposition is fierce. They argue that the tool marks are just natural scratches, the roads are just channels carved by currents, and the buildings are just blocks of sandstone that have broken off in a strangely geometric way. They say that accepting Yonaguni as man-made would require us to completely upend our understanding of the Stone Age. And that's a change many are not willing to make without more definitive proof. So, where does that leave us? Floating in the deep blue, suspended between two compelling possibilities. On one hand, we have the logical, evidence-based caution of science, telling us that our eyes are playing tricks on us. On the other, we have the undeniable, awe-inspiring evidence of those who have seen it firsthand. And the haunting echo of ancient legends. Is the Yonaguni Monument the world's most incredible natural formation? Or is it the tombstone of a lost world? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe it was a natural formation that was then modified by ancient people. A sacred mountain, perhaps, that they carved and shaped to suit their own purposes, turning a geological wonder into a place of worship. This would explain both the massive natural scale and the seemingly artificial details. Ultimately, the monument guards its secrets well. It rests in silence, draped in coral, waiting. Maybe one day, a new discovery will provide a definitive answer. A tool, an inscription, something undeniably human that will settle the debate once and for all. But until then, the Yonaguni Monument remains one of the world's greatest enigmas. It challenges our assumptions about the past and forces us to wonder what else might be lying in the dark. Silent depths of our oceans, waiting to be found. It's a powerful reminder that our history may be far deeper, richer, and more mysterious than we ever dared to believe. What do you think? Is this a trick of nature? Or are we looking at the lost city of a prehistoric civilization? As the camera drifts through the blue silence, we journey back in time. Imagine this monument not as a ruin, but as it once might have been. A sprawling complex of temples and platforms rising proudly from the ocean shore. Picture priests in flowing robes, walking along sunlit terraces, their faces turned toward the sky. Hear the echo of ancient chants carried on the wind, a sound that weaves itself into the fabric of the air. The crisp smell of the sea mingles with the sacred aroma of burning incense and the cool scent of polished stone. It's a place of reverence, a testament to human ingenuity and faith, a thriving center of life and worship, basking in the warm glow of the sun. Then, without warning, a tremor, a deep, guttural trembling of the earth itself. The ground shakes violently, and a sense of dread fills the air. On the horizon, a monstrous wall of water gathers its strength, a colossal wave racing toward the coast with unstoppable fury. The sea, once a provider and a neighbor, becomes a destroyer. It swallows everything: the temples, the terraces, the people. The chants are silenced, replaced by the deafening roar of the ocean. And then, an eerie, profound silence descends. The world is washed clean, and the monument is claimed by the deep. For thousands of years, it lies forgotten, shrouded in the quiet darkness of the abyss. Only the silent currents and the creatures of the deep are its companions. Then, humanity returns, not as priests or worshippers, but as divers. They come chasing ghosts, searching for definitive proof of a lost civilization. Or perhaps, just for a feeling, a connection to a past that defies explanation. One diver, after surfacing from the depths, described the experience with a sense of awe. When you're down there, it feels alive. It's not just rock. It feels like the ocean is guarding something it doesn't want to give back. This sentiment is shared by many who have witnessed it firsthand. There's a presence, an energy that permeates the water around the structures. The monument may be silent in the conventional sense, but it speaks in another language, the universal language of mystery, of memory, of a deep human longing to understand our origins. It whispers tales of what was and what could have been. The debate surrounding its origin is as deep and murky as the waters that conceal it. Some geologists and skeptics argue passionately that it is simply stone shaped by nature, the result of powerful currents and unique geological processes over millennia. They point to the sharp, straight lines as natural fractures in the sandstone, common in the region. To them, it's a magnificent but entirely natural formation. Others, however, see the unmistakable hand of humanity, or perhaps even the hand of gods. They look at the tiered platforms, the staircase-like structures, and the immense, seemingly carved stones, and they see deliberate design. They see architecture. They see a purpose that nature alone cannot explain. Could natural forces really create something so complex, so reminiscent of ancient ziggurats and pyramids found across the globe? This is the central question that fuels the controversy. But regardless of which side you stand on, one undeniable truth remains. The sea has always hidden as much as it reveals. It is the keeper of our planet's greatest secrets, and beneath the swirling waves off the coast of Yonaguni, it hides a story that refuses to be forgotten. A story that continues to challenge our understanding of history and the capabilities of our ancestors. It's a riddle written in stone, submerged in the ocean, waiting for an answer that may never come. The scientific evidence, and the unspoken connection between this sunken monument and the enduring myths of civilizations long vanished. Was Yonaguni the gateway to the lost continent of Mu, a legendary land swallowed by the sea? Or is it simply the greatest masterpiece ever sculpted by the sea itself? The search for answers continues. Imagine diving into the deep blue off the coast of Japan, where the ocean holds a secret that could rewrite human history. In 1986, a local diver searching for new hammerhead shark spots stumbled upon something impossible. A massive terrace structure rising from the seabed. It was too perfect, too symmetrical to be natural. This was the discovery of the Yonaguni Monument, a mystery that continues to baffle scientists and ignite imaginations worldwide. Under the flickering light of their torches, a team led by marine geologist Masaki Kimura began to map the anomaly. What they found was staggering. The main monument stretched over 150 meters long and stood 25 meters high. A silent, stone colossus. But that wasn't all. Surrounding it were smaller formations that looked eerily familiar. Roads, smaller pyramids, and even an enclosure shaped like a stadium. Kimura gave them names that captured their mystique. The main terrace, the grand stairway, the turtle monument. The more they studied these underwater ruins, the more questions surfaced. If this was a natural formation, how did erosion carve such perfectly uniform steps, such flat walls, and such sharp, right-angled corners? The precision seemed to defy the random chaos of nature. But if it was man-made, then who were the architects? And when did they build it? The deep ocean, as always, guarded its secrets with a profound silence. Exploring Yonaguni is a constant battle against the elements. Powerful currents can sweep away divers and expensive equipment in an instant, and frequent storms make the site inaccessible for long stretches. Yet, the allure of the unknown kept pulling the team back. With each dive, they chipped away at the mystery, discovering new wonders. A stone arch that looked like a gateway, a long corridor that seemed to lead to nowhere, and a massive block bearing what appeared to be carvings of animals and faces. These weren't just rocks. They felt like the whispers of a forgotten story. Then, in 1998, a rare, calm season granted them a breakthrough. Kimura's team discovered a path leading away from the main structure, lined with what looked like standing stones. This path seemed to stretch towards the coast, a tantalizing clue that perhaps, long ago, this monument was not underwater at all. It suggested a time when this structure was part of the land, before the sea rose and claimed it. Was this a road connecting a city to its sacred sites? News of this underwater city exploded across the globe. Reporters, documentary crews, and curious adventurers flocked to the small island of Yonaguni. Some dramatically dubbed it the Japanese Atlantis, a remnant of a legendary lost world. Others were quick to dismiss it as pure fantasy, a case of our minds seeing patterns where none exist. But even the most hardened skeptics had to admit, the Yonaguni Monument was unique. Nowhere else on Earth had such clear, geometric shapes been found in a natural underwater rock formation. To get a second opinion, Dr. Robert Schoch, a renowned geologist from the United States, was invited to dive and see the monument for himself. After careful examination, he offered a scientific explanation. The monument, he concluded, was natural sandstone. The clean lines and sharp angles were the result of the rock's natural tendency to fracture along parallel planes, a process amplified by tectonic activity in this seismically active region. In essence, he argued that the Earth itself was the sculptor, creating an illusion of architecture. Yet, even as Dr. Schoch presented his geological case, he couldn't completely shake the site's profound effect. As his camera panned across the symmetrical stairs and impossibly flat terraces, he hesitated, adding a now famous line. "It's natural," he said, "but nature has been unusually artistic here." That single phrase perfectly captured the enigma of Yonaguni. It acknowledged the science but left room for the wonder. Masaki Kimura, however, remained unconvinced by the natural formation theory. He fiercely disagreed, pointing to what he believed was undeniable proof of human hands. He presented evidence of potential stone tools found near the site, reliefs carved into the rock faces, and even astronomical alignments to the sun and stars, similar to those found at Stonehenge. His conclusion was bold, radical, and sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Kimura proposed that Yonaguni was not just a monument, but a 10,000-year-old city. He claimed it was built before the end of the last ice age, at a time when sea levels were much lower. If he was right, it would mean a sophisticated civilization existed thousands of years before the Great Pyramids of Egypt, before the cities of Mesopotamia, before everything we thought we knew about the dawn of human society. This civilization, he argued, was lost when the ice caps melted and the rising seas drowned their world in a great global flood. This explosive theory ignited a fire of imagination across Japan and the world. Could it be possible? Could a forgotten culture, a mother civilization, have thrived here in the distant past? The idea connected with ancient myths from across the Pacific. Could Yonaguni be a remnant of the legendary lost continent of Mu? A vast landmass said to have vanished beneath the waves, taking its advanced civilization with it. The legends felt suddenly closer to reality. Old Okinawan folklore tells of Nirai Kanai, a mythical paradise across the sea from which all life originates. Local talis speak of gods who once walked between the islands and built magnificent palaces beneath the water. In the Shinto faith, Japan's indigenous religion, there is the story of the great dragon god who ruled a spectacular underwater realm filled with coral and crystal towers. Standing before the silent majesty of the Yonaguni monument, it's easy to wonder, is this his temple? Or is it the last tangible memory of his people? Today, the debate rages on. Is Yonaguni a breathtaking trick of geology? A natural plus formation, as some have called it? Or is it the world's oldest man-made structure? The last surviving outpost of a civilization lost to time and tide? There is still no definitive answer. No single piece of evidence that can silence the other side. The truth, for now, remains submerged in the deep, guarded by the silent currents of the Pacific. What do you think? Are we looking at the incredible artistry of Mother Nature? Or are we staring at the ruins of a 10,000-year-old lost city? Let me know your theories in the comments below. The mystery of Yonaguni is a reminder that our planet still holds profound secrets, and that our own history might be far deeper and more mysterious than we ever imagined. There are mysteries the world overlooks, and then there are those it simply cannot explain. Deep beneath the waves off the coast of Japan, a southernmost island, lies one such enigma. The Yonaguni monument. Each stone, each shadow, whispers a question that has echoed for decades. A colossal, terrace structure rising from the seabed, its sharp angles and flat surfaces standing in stark defiance of the ocean's gentle curves. At first, it was dismissed as a bizarre natural formation, but as more eyes turned to the deep, the questions only grew louder. After the initial excitement of discovery faded, researchers turned to the hard evidence, the cold, measured facts of science. But even the facts refused to stay still. The monument seemed to guard its secrets, offering just enough clues to fuel the debate, but never enough to settle it. Was this a lost city, a temple to forgotten gods? Or was it merely a trick of geology, a grand illusion sculpted by currents and time? The world was divided, and the search for answers was just beginning. Leading the charge was Professor Masashi Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyu. For over 3 decades, he led dozens of expeditions, meticulously mapping the structure with sonar, drones, and hand-drawn charts. He wasn't just looking, he was measuring, and what he found was astonishing. He measured angles so precise, they seemed designed by engineers. Perfect 90-degree corners, crisp 45-degree inclines. He traced lines so straight they ran for 20 meters without the slightest deviation. Nature can create incredible patterns, but this level of geometric precision was almost unheard of. At the monument's southern edge, Kimura's team discovered what looked unmistakably like a stairway. 50 steps, rising in a perfect, rhythmic succession. Each step was nearly equal in height and width, ascending towards a massive platform shaped like a stage. Imagine standing there, on that flat expanse, large enough to hold hundreds of people. Could this have been a gathering place? A temple where ancient ceremonies once echoed under the sun, long before the waves claimed it. The sheer scale is difficult to comprehend. The entire structure seems to be carved from a single, monolithic block of sandstone, as if the builders had shaped the very bedrock of the island itself. There's no mortar, no visible joints, no separate pieces fitted together, only stone, sculpted and smoothed, like the body of a sleeping titan. But the geometry was only the beginning. In later dives, Kimura's team captured footage of shapes that seemed to defy nature even more directly. A form resembling a face, half buried in coral, its features eroded, but still discernible. Nearby, an outline that looked remarkably like a giant turtle carved into the stone. They also found strange lines and circles arranged in patterns, like a script no one could read. When these images were shown to local elders, some recognized ancient symbols from the Ifa and Ryerkick traditions patterns, once used in prayers to the sea gods. Of course, these carvings are a major point of contention. Skeptics argue they are simply pareidolia, or human minds, seeing familiar patterns in random formations, finding order where there is only chaos. A rock that looks like a face is just a rock, they say. And yet, even the most hardened skeptics were unsettled. Independent geologists who examined the site admitted that many of the monument-esque surfaces showed signs of cutting marks that did not match the natural fracture patterns of sandstone. Some edges bore faint but deliberate tool-like striations. Could human hands have touched these stones, shaping them thousands of years before Japan even existed as a nation? This brings us to the most mind-bending question of all. How old is it? If the Yonaguni monument is man-made, its age is staggering. Geologists estimate that the rock formation itself was last above sea level during the last ice age, somewhere between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago. If it was carved when it was on dry land, then the civilization that built it would predate the pyramids of Egypt and Stonehenge by millennia. This would completely upend our understanding of the Stone Age, suggesting the existence of a highly organized, technologically capable society far earlier than mainstream history accepts. Imagine a world 12,000 years ago. Humanity, as we are told, consisted of small bands of hunter-gatherers. Yet, the Yonaguni theory suggests that somewhere in the East China Sea, a society possessed the knowledge and tools to undertake a monumental construction project, carving a mountain into a temple. Could such a lost civilization have existed? Proponents point to global myths of great floods and sunken lands, from Atlantis to the stories of Mu and Lemur. They argue the Yonaguni is not an anomaly, but the first physical proof of a long-forgotten chapter in human history. The scientific community remains sharply divided. Many geologists stand firm, explaining the monument's features through natural processes. They argue that sandstone, which is layered, naturally breaks along straight plains. The right combination of tectonic activity, consistent currents, and erosion could, over millennia, create something that looks artificial. They point to other natural formations around the world, like the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, as examples of nature's ability to create geometric wonders. For every staircase, they offer an explanation of tiered erosion. For every wall, they point to the natural bedding planes of the rock. But the questions linger. If it's all natural, why is this formation so unique? Why aren't there dozens of other Yonagunis scattered along the ocean floor? Why do the features align so neatly into what appears to be a cohesive, functional complex? The stage, the stairways, the turtle, together, they tell a story. Is it a story we are projecting onto the stone, or one that was carved there long ago, waiting to be rediscovered? The Yonaguni monument exists in a fascinating gray area between accepted history and radical theory. It challenges our assumptions and forces us to wonder what else might be hidden, waiting in the deep. It's a reminder that the ocean still holds secrets, and that the story of our past might be far grander and stranger than we ever imagined. The Yonaguni monument, is it a breathtaking natural formation, or the remains of a lost, prehistoric civilization? Let's explore the evidence and the legends surrounding this enigmatic structure. Our story begins in 1986, off the coast of Yonaguni Island, Japan. A local diver, Kachiro Eretik, was searching for new hammerhead shark watching spots when he stumbled upon something that defied belief. Rising from the seabed was a colossal stone structure, a series of immense, terraced platforms with perfectly flat sides and sharp, 90-degree angles. It looked like a sunken pyramid, an underwater ziggurat lost to time. News of his discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Could this be a natural wonder, or was it man-made? The debate had just begun. For years, skeptics argued that the monument was simply a product of geology. Yonaguni is in a seismically active region, and the sandstone it's made of naturally fractures in straight lines. They claimed that the regular, block-like shapes were the result of tectonic stress and erosion, nothing more than a geological fluke, a trick of the eye. For a time, this seemed like the most logical explanation. But as more divers and researchers explored the site, the puzzle only deepened. It became clear that this was no ordinary rock formation. One of the first to challenge the geological theory was Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Rai. He dedicated years of his life to studying the monument, conducting over 100 dives to map its features. What he found was astonishing. The structure wasn't just a single monolith. It was a complex of interconnected formations spread over a vast area. He identified what he believed were roads, retaining walls, a grand staircase, and even a stadium-like plaza surrounded by stone seating. The main structure itself, which he nicknamed the Turtle, is massive, nearly the size of a football field and as tall as a 10-story building. To Kimura, the sheer complexity and organization of the site pointed overwhelmingly to human design. Nature, he argued, doesn't build with such precision. But the most compelling and unsettling discoveries were yet to come. In later dives, his team captured footage of shapes that seemed to defy natural explanation. Tucked away in the crevices and on the surfaces of the monument were carvings. They found what appears to be a face, half buried in coral, its features weathered but distinct. Elsewhere, a shape resembling a turtle, meticulously carved into the stone. And perhaps most mysteriously, they found strange lines and circles arranged in patterns, like a forgotten script that no one could decipher. When these images were shown to local elders from the Ryerkeeg Islands, some felt a chill of recognition. They saw similarities to ancient patterns of the Ifa and Ryerkeeg spiritual tradition symbols, once used in prayers to the sea gods. Were these carvings definitive proof of human hands, or were they just coincidences, our minds imposing order on chaos, seeing faces and symbols in random patterns of stone and shadow? This phenomenon, called pareidolia, is well known. We see animals in clouds and faces in burnt toast. But here, beneath the waves, the patterns felt different. They felt intentional. Even staunch skeptics were unsettled by some of the evidence. They had to admit that many of the monument's surfaces showed signs of being cut or worked. They found marks that didn't match the patterns of natural fractures. Some edges bore faint but deliberate striations, the kind of marks left behind by tools. Could human hands have touched these stones thousands of years before Japan even existed as a nation? The question was staggering. To answer it, we have to talk about time. Geologists studied the area and concluded that the landmass where the monument sits was last above water more than 10,000 years ago. This was before the end of the last ice age, when melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise dramatically all over the world. If the Yonaguni monument was built on dry land, it would have to be over 10,000 years old. This would make it thousands of years older than the pyramids of Giza, older than Stonehenge, older than every known major civilization on Earth. Sumer, Egypt, the Indus Valley. It would completely rewrite the history of humanity. This idea created a deep rift among scholars. Could humans from the Stone Age people we thought were simple hunter-gatherers have possessed the knowledge, the tools, and the social organization to quarry and shape stone on such a monumental scale? The mainstream archaeological consensus was a firm no. The technological leap required would be immense, and there was no other evidence of such advanced capabilities from that era. However, in recent decades, other discoveries have started to challenge that certainty. In Turkey, there's Göbekli Tepe, a vast temple complex with intricately carved stone pillars, dated to at least 11,000 years ago. In Indonesia, the site of Gunung Padang is being investigated, with some researchers suggesting it could be a pyramid-like structure that is over 20,000 years old. These sites suggest that our ancient ancestors might have been far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. Perhaps they weren't just surviving. Perhaps they were builders, astronomers, and artists who understood the world in ways we've forgotten. Could Yonaguni belong to this same lost chapter of human history? A chapter we're only just beginning to read. This is where the story takes a turn into the realm of myth and legend. For believers in an ancient, advanced civilization, one name echoes through the ages: Mu. Mu is a hypothetical lost continent, a Pacific version of Atlantis, said to have vanished beneath the waves thousands of years ago, taking a brilliant and enlightened civilization with it. According to the legend, popularized by writers like James Church, the continent of Mu stretched from the coast of Asia all the way to the islands of Polynesia vast, primordial motherland. Interestingly, in the early 20th century, some Japanese scholars and mystics claimed that their ancestors were descendants of the people of Mu, believed the monument was Mu's final whisper from the deepest sacred fragment that survived the cataclysmic flood that swallowed their world. Professor Kimura's own research lends a sliver of scientific plausibility to this idea. His geological analysis suggests that Yonaguni was once part of a much larger landmass, a land bridge connecting what is now Okinawa, Taiwan, and mainland China. When the sea levels rose after the Ice Age, this land bridge was submerged. If a civilization existed there, it would have been almost completely destroyed. All that would remain are scattered ruins beneath the waves, and fragmented memories preserved in myth. Of course, cautious and skeptical scientists dismiss the Mu connection as pure fantasy. They stand by their initial assessment. The monument's shapes were formed by natural tectonic fractures, the straight lines and right angles a testament to Earth's incredible creative power, not humanity's. They argue that the carvings are illusions, and the tool marks are misinterpreted erosion patterns. Yet, even as they present their logical arguments, a sense of wonder and doubt remains. The sea around Yonaguni is filled with patterns that are simply too ordered, too symmetrical, too asterisk. Human asterisk. To be dismissed outright. The turtle, the stadium, the grand staircase, they all stretch the definition of what nature can create on its own. It feels like we're standing on the edge of a great discovery, peering into a past so deep it has become almost mythological. So, what is the truth? Is the Yonaguni monument a geological masterpiece? An awe-inspiring example of nature's artistry? Or is it the tombstone of a lost world? A civilization that rose and fell long before our recorded history began. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe it was a natural formation that ancient people recognized as sacred, a place they modified and carved, turning a natural wonder into a holy site. As of today, the Yonaguni monument is not officially recognized by the Japanese government or mainstream academic bodies. As a man-made structure, it remains a beautiful and controversial anomaly. But the questions it raises are profound. They force us to reconsider what we think we know about our own past, about our ancestors, and about our place in the long, mysterious story of this planet. The ocean holds its secrets tightly, but with each dive, each new piece of footage, we get one step closer to understanding the silent, stone mystery of Yonaguni. Have you ever heard of a continent that vanished beneath the waves? A place spoken of only in whispers? A civilization of immense wisdom, swallowed by the Pacific Ocean thousands of years ago. Among believers, one name returns again and again: Mu. According to legend, Mu was a vast land, a world before our world, stretching from the coast of Asia all the way to the islands of Polynesia. It's a story that has captivated imaginations for generations. In the early 20th century, some Japanese scholars even claimed their own ancestors hailed from this mythical land. They believed that a mysterious underwater structure off the coast of Japan was its final whisper, a fragment that survived a cataclysmic flood. This structure is the Yonaguni Monument. For decades, it has been the center of a fierce debate. Is it a lost city, or just a trick of nature? One of the leading proponents of the man-made theory is Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist who has dedicated years of his life to studying the site. After countless dives, he's convinced that Yonaguni is not a natural formation. He points to what he sees as clear evidence of human intervention. Massive stone blocks that appear to be carved into steps, terraces, and even what looks like a grand pyramid-like structure. In his analysis, Professor Kimura paints a picture of a world lost to time. He suggests that Yonaguni was once part of a huge landmass connecting Okinawa, Taiwan, and mainland Asia. When the last ice age ended and the sea levels rose dramatically, this ancient civilization was engulfed by the ocean. All that remains, he argues, are these scattered ruins beneath the waves, and the faint memories hidden within our myths. Of course, not everyone is convinced. Many scientists remain cautious, even skeptical. They dismiss these ideas as pure fantasy. The mainstream geological explanation is that the monument's striking shapes were formed by a natural process called tectonic fracture. The layered sandstone, they argue, simply split along its natural planes due to seismic activity, creating these sharp, geometric forms. To them, Yonaguni is not proof of humanity's ancient ingenuity, but rather a stunning example of Earth's own creative power. And yet, even as they present their logical arguments, a sense of wonder persists. The sea around Yonaguni is filled with patterns that seem too ordered, too intentional, too human to simply ignore. There are features that look like roads, plazas, and even a retaining wall. The sheer scale of it all is breathtaking. If it is natural, it's one of the most remarkable coincidences on the planet. If it's man-made, it rewrites our understanding of ancient history. Perhaps the most compelling piece of evidence came not from the stone itself, but from the light. During one of his sunrise dives, Professor Kimura noticed something extraordinary. The first rays of the sun cut directly across the monument's highest platform, illuminating its central stairway with perfect, breathtaking symmetry. He immediately ran the calculations. The alignment was astronomical, precise to the winter solstice. If his findings are correct, this would mean the builders had not only mastered the art of shaping massive stones, but also possessed a deep understanding of the heavens, the language of stars and seasons. This isn't just about construction. It's about cosmology. It's about a connection to the universe. So, who were these architects of time? Were they farmers, priests, or astronomers who worshipped the rising sun? We see this celestial reverence in ancient cultures all over the world. The Ifugao people of the Philippines built their rice terraces with an eye to the cosmos. The builders of Machu Picchu in Peru and the creators of Egypt's pyramids all looked to the heavens for guidance and meaning. Could Yonaguni be Japan? Is his Syalan twin another civilization reaching for eternity through stone? To those who have had the privilege to dive there, Yonaguni is more than just a scientific mystery. It's a profound, almost spiritual experience. As you descend through the deep blue, the water thickens, and the sunlight begins to fade. And then, suddenly, out of the murky depths, geometry emerges. A staircase rising from the seafloor. A flat, open space. It feels like a plaza. A pathway that vanishes into the darkness. Schools of fish move through the structures like living memories, and the sea itself seems to hum a soft, ancient song, as if it's telling its story to anyone willing to listen. Many divers report a sensation that is hard to describe. One said, "When I touched the stones, I felt a warmth as if the earth itself remembered what happened here." It's a feeling of being in the presence of something ancient and sacred. And maybe that's what the monument truly represents. Maybe the debate over whether it's man-made or natural misses the point. Perhaps its true purpose is not to be proof of ancient technology or mythical continents, but to remind us that humans have always searched for a deeper connection, a connection between the sea and the sky, between our bodies and our souls, between life and eternity. Yonaguni is a testament to our enduring quest for meaning in a vast and mysterious universe. But the story doesn't end here. The legends surrounding this place run even deeper, intertwining with Japan's oldest myths. In our next chapter, we'll follow the trail of legend, itself exploring the tales of the gods of the sea, the mythical underwater kingdom of Rageje, and the sacred bond between Japan's ancient peoples and the ocean that both gave them life, and ultimately took it away. Have you ever heard a sound that feels ancient? Like this slow, rhythmic pulse of waves against stone, a distant temple bell, with the wind singing a song only the water understands. Long before divers and scientists discovered the mysteries of Yonaguni, there were stories, whispers shared around flickering fires, songs sung in fishing villages when the moon cast a silver path across the ocean. These were stories of a kingdom hidden beneath the waves, a palace built of coral and pearl, where the gods themselves held court over the deep. The people called it Rigeije, the Dragon Palace. Could the legends of Japan's sunken realms hold the key to understanding one of the world's most enigmatic underwater structures? Join us as we dive into the myths of the sea gods and explore whether the Yonaguni Monument is a lost, divine kingdom. In the oldest tales of Japan, the ruler of the oceans is a being of immense power and majesty. His palace, Rage, is said to lie far below the surface, a breathtaking realm of shimmering towers, golden halls, and an eternal, tranquil. 4 millennia fishermen looked to the sea not just as a source of life, but as the physical manifestation of Rigan's mood. When the waves grew restless, they believed the dragon god was stirring in his slumber. When violent storms raged, it was a sign of his anger. And when the sea fell into a profound, glassy silence after a great tide, it was because Ryujin was listening, observing the world above. Legend speaks of a sacred treasure guarded by Ryujin within his palace, the tide jewels. These magical gems held the power to command the oceans, to make the waters rise and fall at will. It's said that one jewel controlled the ebb and the other, the flow. Some stories whisper that when humanity grew too greedy, disrespecting the delicate balance of nature, Ryujin withdrew deep into his underwater kingdom, taking the tide jewels with him. In his sorrow or his anger, he allowed the waters to reclaim the land, to wash away the arrogance of the surface world. As we look at the colossal terrace structure of Yonaguni, one can't help but wonder, could this be a remnant of that mythical event? Perhaps it is his throne, or a sacred altar, left behind as the ocean reclaimed a kingdom that once belonged to the gods. The sharp, right angles and monumental steps seem too deliberate for nature alone. Could they be the architectural signature of a divine king? This idea of a real, physical palace beneath the waves is woven deeply into Japanese folklore, most famously through the tale of Urashima Tar. Every child in Japan grows up with the story of this kind-hearted fisherman. When Urashima Tar returned to the surface, the world he knew was gone. His village had vanished. The people, the houses, the very landscape was unfamiliar. Confused and desperate, he asked an old man if he had ever heard of a fisherman named Urashima Tar. The man looked at him, puzzled, and replied that he had heard a story of someone by that name who had disappeared at sea 300 years ago. In his grief and disbelief, Urashima Tar forgot the princess's warning. He opened the tamata. A cloud of white smoke billowed out, and in an instant, the years he had missed caught up with him. He aged rapidly, his body withering, and he turned to dust. For centuries, this was just a fairy tale, a cautionary lesson about the passage of time and the pain of loss. But now, with the discovery of Yonaguni, some storytellers and theorists are asking a fascinating question. Could the legend of Urashima Tar be a folk memory? A story passed down through countless generations, describing a real place that was swallowed by the ocean. A place where, in a sense, time did stop, frozen in stone beneath the waves. When modern divers descend through the deep blue towards the monument, many describe a similar feeling of stepping outside of time, of entering a silent, sacred realm where centuries blur into a single moment. Is it possible that an ancient ancestor truly visited a coastal city, only to return after a cataclysmic event like a tsunami or an earthquake to find his world completely changed, seemingly in the blink of an eye? The spiritual connection to the sea runs even deeper for the Ryukyu people, the indigenous inhabitants of the islands that include Okinawa and Yonaguni. For them, the ocean wasn't just a body of water. It was a living, breathing spirit world. They believed that every rock, every wave, every gust of wind carried a kami, a soul, or a divine essence. Their most sacred places, called utaki, were often natural formations facing the ocean. When they prayed, they faced the sea, offering rice, sake, and incense to the ancestors who they believed lived in a paradise beyond the horizon, a realm they called Niraikanai. Niraikanai was both the source of all life and the final destination for souls after death. It was a place from which blessings, like good harvests and healthy children, flowed to the world of the living. According to some of their oral traditions, the very first ancestors of the Ryerkig people came from the sea. Some versions of these creation myths even speak of an ancient island that sank beneath the waves, forcing the survivors to scatter and establish new homes on the islands we know today. This narrative carries powerful echoes of a great flood or a geological catastrophe, an event that could have been very real. Its memory preserved not in written texts, but in sacred stories. These ancestors, who emerged from the sea, were said to have brought with them profound knowledge. How to read the stars, how to work with stone, and how to live in harmony with the powerful elements of nature. This leads to another compelling theory about Yonaguni. Perhaps its builders were not gods like Ryujin, but humans guided by the divine. People who lived so closely with the ocean that the line between the physical and spiritual worlds began to blur. Maybe the monument wasn't a palace, but a ceremonial center, a place where these ancient people honored their ancestors from Niraikan, a tangible link between their world and the spirit world across the water. The sheer scale and precision of the structure suggest a society with advanced knowledge and a deep, unifying purpose. What purpose could be greater than building a monument to the very source of their existence? Whether Yonaguni is the throne of a dragon god, the inspiration for a timeless fairy tale, or a sacred site built by the first people of Ryerkig, its stones are saturated with myth. They challenge us to see the world not just through the lens of science, but also through the eyes of those who saw spirits in the waves and kingdoms in the deep. As we continue to explore its silent, submerged corridors, we are not just exploring a geological anomaly. We are diving into the collective memory of a people, into a world where myth and reality flow into one another like the tides. The stories of Rygij remind us that sometimes the deepest truths are not found in what we can prove, but in the legends that endure. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the mythical depths. What do you believe? Is Yonaguni a natural wonder or a lost piece of a legendary world? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into history and myth, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. For the ancient inhabitants of Okinawa and Yonaguni, the sea was never just water, it was spirit. They believed that every rock, every wave, and every gust of wind carried a soul, a presence. When they prayed, they didn't face a temple inland. They turned to the ocean, offering rice and incense to the ancestors they believed lived just beyond the horizon. Oral traditions passed down through generations tell of their first ancestors emerging from the sea itself. Some versions of the story are hauntingly familiar, speaking of a legendary island that sank beneath the waves, forcing its survivors to scatter and find new lands. It's a story that echoes flood myths from around the world. Could this be a distant, fragmented memory of a real cataclysm? These ancestors, whether real or mythic, were said to have brought with them profound knowledge of the stars, of stonework, and of how to live in perfect harmony with the elements. Is it possible that these very people, guided by a divine purpose, were the builders of the Yonaguni monument? Not gods, but humans touched by the memory of a lost world. Professor Masaki Kimura, the man who has dedicated his life to studying this structure, once said, "Every civilization begins with myth. Every myth begins with memory." If we follow that logic, then perhaps the famous Japanese legend of Ryujin's Dragon Palace, an opulent kingdom beneath the sea, isn't just a children's fairy tale. What if it's the collective memory of a real kingdom, a real civilization, lost to the rising seas at the end of the last ice age? Let's look at the monument again with that in mind. The terraces are layered, one on top of the other, almost like the distinctive roofs of ancient Japanese temples. The grand stairways lead ever upward, reminiscent of the sacred paths to Shinto shrines. And consider this. At dawn on the winter solstice, the first rays of sunlight strike its heart, a perfect celestial alignment, just as it does in the great Shinto sanctuaries on the surface world. Is this all just a string of incredible coincidences? A trick of the light and geology? Or is it possible that the architects of the first shrines on land were simply recreating what they remembered? A deeper, older, and far more sacred temple one built, not for earthly spirits, but for the sea gods themselves. A place where the line between the human and the divine was as thin as the surface of the water. But the mystery doesn't end with the stones. The stories told by those who have visited this place are just as compelling. Divers who have explored Yonaguni speak of strange and inexplicable encounters. They describe shadowy shapes moving through the murky depths, just at the edge of their vision. They've witnessed entire schools of fish circling the monument in perfect, mesmerizing patterns. Some have even reported hearing a low, resonant hum, almost like a distant, rhythmic chanting carried on the currents. There are even more personal accounts. Divers who have felt a phantom hand gently brush against them, only to turn and find no one there. Others describe moments of sudden, profound calm, a stillness so complete it feels as if the entire ocean is holding its breath. What Sing Tien? Are these just the tricks of a mind under pressure, or something else at play in these ancient waters? Local fishermen, whose families have sailed these seas for centuries, have their own beliefs. They say these are the guardians of Ryujin, the dragon king, powerful spirits tasked with protecting this sacred site. To disturb the stones, they warn, is to awaken the dragon. For generations, they consciously avoided diving in this specific area. This wasn't born from fear, but from a deep, abiding reverence. They understand that the sea is sacred, and they believe these ruins are a gateway, a liminal space where the world of the living touches the world of the gods, a place that commands respect. So, as we try to unravel this puzzle, maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe the real mystery of the Yonaguni monument isn't about Asterisk. Who Asterisk built it? But Asterisk why? Asterisk it was built. What was its ultimate purpose? Was it a grand temple of worship, where priests in a long-forgotten time sang hymns to the ocean? Could it have been a colossal calendar, carved from living rock, to track the intricate dance of the sun, moon, and stars? Or was it a memorial, a monument to the ancestors, a solemn promise that their spirit and legacy would remain, even after the ocean returned to claim their land? Whatever its true purpose was, the Yonaguni monument embodies a desire that is universal to all of humanity, stretching back to our earliest days. It is the ancient, primal need to speak to eternity. It's a declaration, etched in stone, that says, "We were here, we lived, we mattered." It's an attempt to build something so enduring that time itself cannot erase it. And perhaps, even now, beneath the endless, shifting tides and the silence of the deep, Yonaguni is still whispering those very words to anyone willing to listen. Soundscape opens with slow waves, chime of temple bells, and the distant call of wind through water. Long before divers and scientists came to Yonaguni, there were stories whispered around fires, sung in fishing villages when the moon turned silver. Stories that spoke of a kingdom beneath the waves, a palace of coral and pearl, where the gods themselves ruled the deep. The people called it Ragajay. Oh, the Dragon Palace was the Yonaguni monument, this silent city of stone, once part of that mythical kingdom. Is it possible that the legends we hear today are not just fairy tales, but fragmented memories of a world lost to the sea? Join Eos as we dive deep into the myths of Japan as ocean gods and explore the enchanting possibility that the Yonaguni ruins are the gateway to a lost, divine world. In the oldest tales of Japan, Ryujin is the ruler of the oceans, a mighty dragon god whose palace lies far below the surface, a place of shimmering towers, golden halls, and endless calm. He wasn't just a creature. He was the very spirit of the sea itself. Fishermen believed that when the waves grew restless, it was Ryujin stirring in his sleep. When the typhoons came, roaring and powerful, it was a sign of his anger. And when the sea fell eerily silent after a great tide, it was because the Dragon King was listening, observing the world of men from his watery throne. According to legend, Ryujin guarded the tide jewels, two magical gems that could command the oceans to rise or fall at his will. With one, he could create a flood. With the other, a drought. He held the power of life and death over the coastal lands. It was a sacred trust, a balance he maintained between the world of water and the world of land. Some ancient stories tell of a time when humans grew greedy, overfishing the waters and disrespecting the delicate balance of nature. In his sorrow and disappointment, Ryujin withdrew deep into his palace, taking the tide jewels with him, and allowed the waters to rise and reclaim the land that had been taken for granted. Now, look again at the colossal structures of Yonaguni. The massive, flat terrace, some call the main stage, the grand staircase, the perfectly carved channels. Could this be the physical remnant of that legend? Perhaps the monument isn't just a natural formation, but Ryujin's throne, left behind as the ocean reclaimed its kingdom. A silent, powerful reminder of the respect the sea demands, and the god who rules it. This idea of a submerged palace isn't just an abstract concept. It's woven into one of Japan's most beloved folk tales. Every child in Japan knows the tale of Urashima Tar, the kind-hearted fisherman who one day saved a small turtle from being tormented by a group of children. As a reward for his compassion, the turtle, who was actually a servant of the Sea King, offered to take him to the Dragon Palace. Urashima Tar climbed onto the turtle's back and was carried down through the deep blue, to a world he never could have imagined. He arrived at the gates of Raigje, a breathtaking palace made of coral, pearl, and crystal. There, he met the beautiful sea princess, Otoheim, the daughter of Ridge. She welcomed him into a world of light and song, where there was no sickness, no sadness, and no sense of passing time. He was surrounded by wonders, feasting on magical food and enjoying dances performed by fish and other sea creatures. For what felt like only a few blissful days, he forgot all about his home on the surface. But eventually, a feeling of homesickness crept into his heart. He missed his mother and his village. He told Princess Otoheim that he must return. With a heavy heart, she agreed, but she gave him a parting gift. A beautiful lacquered box called the Asterisk. Tamateko asterisk, she warned him. Whatever you do, you must never, ever open this box. Urashima Tar promised, and the turtle carried him back to the surface. But when he arrived at his home shore, everything was different. The mountains and rivers were the same, but his village was gone. The people he met were strangers. Confused and desperate, he asked an old man if he knew of a fisherman named Urashima Tar. The old man looked at him, puzzled, and said, "Urashima Taro, I've heard a story about a man with that name, but he disappeared at sea 300 years ago." In his shock and grief, Urashima Tar forgot the princess's warning. He sat on the beach, holding the beautiful box, his only connection to the world he had just left, hoping to find some answer, some magic to reverse his fate. He opened it. A cloud of white smoke billowed out and washed over him. In an instant, his hair turned white, his bike bent, and his skin wrinkled. The 300 years he had missed on the surface caught up to him all at once, and he aged into an old man, a stranger in his own land. It's a powerful, bittersweet story about time, loss, and the consequences of visiting another world. But what if it more than just a story? Modern storytellers and researchers have begun to wonder, could the legend of Urashima Tar be a folk memory of Yonaguni, a story passed down through countless generations, describing a real place, a real city that was swallowed by the ocean, a place where, for those who lived there, time effectively stopped, frozen beneath the waves, while the world above moved on. When divers descend through the deep blue waters to the Yonaguni monument, they often describe a similar sensation. As they leave the bright, fast-paced world of the surface and enter the quiet, slow-motion world of the deep, it feels as though they are stepping out of time. They are entering a realm where centuries blur into a profound, heavy silence. The tale of Urashima Tar warns of the dangers of trying to bridge two different worlds and two different flows of time. Perhaps the monument is a physical manifestation of that same idea world from another time, now separated from our own by the vast, mysterious expanse of the ocean. As we float above these silent structures, it's easy to see how the legends were born. The massive stone platform could be the very dance floor where Princess Otoheim's subjects entertained. Urashima Tar, the step terraces, might be the grand entrance to the palace itself. The tale isn't just about a magical place, it's about the feeling of being in a realm that operates by different rules. And that feeling is something diverse at Yonaguni report again and again. Could it be that the story of Urashima Tar is the key? A human-scale narrative that explains a cataclysmic geological event, instead of a complex scientific explanation of rising sea levels and shifting tectonic plates. Ancient people created a story about a man who visited a magical place and found that he could never truly go back. Perhaps the entire population of the city visited the Dragon Palace. In a sense, when the ocean claimed their home, they were lost to time, their memory preserved only in a fairy tale. The connection between myth and this underwater mystery deepens the sense of wonder surrounding Yonaguni. It transforms it from a mere geological puzzle or an archaeological site into something more profound. A place of legends, where the boundaries between the human world and the divine world have blurred. Whether Yonaguni is the throne of a dragon god or the palace that enchanted a lonely fisherman, it embodies the powerful hold the ocean has on the human imagination. These myths give a voice to the silent stones, turning them from cold, hard rock into the stuff of dreams. They remind us that for our ancestors, the ocean was not just a body of water, it was a living, breathing entity, full of gods, monsters, and forgotten kingdoms. And perhaps, just perhaps, they were right. For the Ryukyu people, the ancient inhabitants of Okinawa and its surrounding islands, like Yonaguni, the sea was never just water. It was a living, breathing spirit. They held a profound belief that every single rock, every cresting wave, and every gust of wind carried a soul, a presence. Their prayers weren't directed towards the sky, but towards the vast, endless ocean. They would face the horizon, offering rice and burning incense, not to distant gods, but to their own ancestors, who they believed resided in a mythical realm beyond the sea called Neirak Kenai. Their oral traditions are rich with stories of their origins, all deeply intertwined with the ocean. One of the most powerful legends says their very first ancestors emerged directly from the sea. Some versions of this story tell of a magnificent island, a homeland that tragically sank beneath the waves, forcing the survivors to scatter and find new homes. It's a story that echoes flood myths from around the world, a blend of possible history and powerful myth. These ancestors, it said, brought with them a sacred knowledge of the stars, of stone masonry, and of how to live in perfect harmony with the powerful elements of nature. It leads you to wonder, could these ancestors, guided by a divine purpose, be the ones who built the incredible structures we now see at Yonaguni? Perhaps they weren't gods, but humans touched by the divine. Professor Masaki Kimura, the marine geologist who has dedicated his life to studying the monument, once made a profound statement. He said, "Every civilization begins with myth. Every myth begins with memory. If we take that to heart, then maybe the legendary Dragon Palace, or Rigjay, isn't just a children's fairy tale. Perhaps it's a collective, ancestral memory of a real kingdom, a real city, now lost to the rising seas." Let's look closer at the evidence carved in stone. When you observe the Yonaguni monument, the resemblances to sacred architecture on land are uncanny. The terraces are layered, one on top of the other, almost precisely like the distinctive, tiered roofs of ancient Japanese temples and castles. You see grand stairways, seemingly leading upwards towards a place of importance, much like the stone paths that guide visitors to Shinto shrines. And then there's the light. At dawn, on certain days of the year, the rising sun's rays penetrate the water and illuminate the very heart of the structure. This is no accident of nature. This is a hallmark of sacred design, seen in the great Shinto sanctuaries across Japan. From Ise to Izuma, all built to align with celestial events. Could all of this to terraces, the stairs, the deliberate alignment with the sun really be a coincidence? Or is it possible that the people who built the first shrines on land were remembering something deeper, something older, a primeval temple built not for mountain gods, but for the powerful deities of the sea itself? The mystery of Yonaguni isn't just confined to its stones. It lives in the stories of those who have visited its depths. Divers who have explored the monument share tales of strange and profound encounters. They speak of seeing shadowy shapes moving just at the edge of their vision, flitting through the deep blue mist. They describe seeing massive schools of hammerhead sharks circling the monument in perfect, almost choreographed patterns, a behavior not typically seen elsewhere. Some divers report even more personal experiences. The faint, echoing sound of a low hum, like distant, rhythmic chanting, resonating through the water. A few have even claimed to feel a gentle hand brush against their arm or shoulder, only to turn and find no one there. Others describe a sudden, inexplicable calm descending upon the site, a moment where the currents cease and the entire ocean seems to hold its breath, as if in silent observation. These aren't just one-off stories. They are recurring themes in the accounts of those who have been there. For the local fishermen of Yonaguni Island, these experiences are not surprising. They have their own explanations, passed down through generations. They believe these are the guardians of Ryujin, the great dragon god of the sea. These spirits are sworn protectors of the sacred monument. The old fisherman will warn you that to disturb the stones, to show disrespect, is to risk awakening the dragon from its slumber. For centuries, this deep-seated reverence kept them from diving in that specific area. It wasn't born from fear, but from a profound respect for the sacredness of the place. They see the ocean not as a resource to be exploited, but as a holy domain, and the ruins beneath the waves, they see them as a gate, a liminal space, a sacred threshold where our world, the world of the living, comes face to face with the enduring memory of the gods. The monument isn't just a relic of the past. It's a living, breathing testament to a time when humans and the divine were much, much closer. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the unknown. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you and miss our next adventure into the world's greatest mysteries. Until next time, keep questioning.